The night of the arrest burned itself into my memory like fire on skin. Police lights flashed against the house, painting the walls in red and blue, making the familiar place look like a crime scene out of a TV show. I stood on the porch, my arms stiff at my sides, my fists clenched so tight I felt my nails digging into my palms. My heart was racing, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was something sharper, heavier, the weight of everything I had carried for years finally bursting free. Linda was thrashing in the officer's grip, her expensive bracelet jingling on her wrist as she struggled. Her lipstick was smeared, her blonde hair a mess, her face twisted with rage. "This is a mistake," she screamed. "I didn't do anything wrong. That ungrateful brat set me up." Her eyes locked on mine, full of venom, her voice like acid. For a moment, the old me, the broken, scared girl, almost flinched, almost. But then I straightened my spine, lifted my chin, and met her glare head-on. My jaw was tight, my eyes burning with a fire I didn't bother hiding. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to fight. Just standing there, steady and unbroken, was victory enough. The officers shoved her into the back of the car, her curses muffled as the door slammed shut. Neighbors whispered from their lawns, some shaking their heads, others staring at me like they were seeing me for the first time. I let the tears fall, hot and steady, but my face stayed firm. For years, she had broken me. Tonight, she couldn't touch me. The trial was everything she deserved. Weeks later, I sat in the front row of the courtroom, my back straight, my hands folded neatly in my lap. My heart pounded so loud it filled my ears, but I kept my expression calm. Linda sat at the defense table, her expensive suit crisp, her makeup flawless, but no amount of lipstick could hide the fury twisting her mouth. When the lawyer played the recordings, her voice dripping with cruelty, mocking me, bragging about the money, she shifted in her seat, her face going pale for the first time since I'd known her. I didn't look away. Every time she tried to meet my eyes, I held her gaze steady, unblinking. It was her turn to feel small. The judge read the charges: fraud, theft, abuse. With every word, I felt lighter, as if chains were falling from my body. Linda muttered under her breath, shaking her head. But when the gavel slammed and her sentence was announced, years in prison, something inside me cracked open. I wanted to laugh, I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream. Instead, I let out a shaky breath and smiled, just a little. Not a smile of joy. A smile of justice. When they led her away in handcuffs, she twisted one last time to look at me. Her eyes were wild, her lips curled in a snarl. "This isn't over," she hissed. I just tilted my head slightly, my face calm, my eyes steady. Inside, I whispered to myself, "Yes, it is." After that, the house was mine. At first, the silence felt heavy, strange. For so long, every corner had carried Linda's footsteps, her sharp voice, her cold presence. I walked through the rooms slowly, my fingertips brushing the walls, half expecting her to appear in the doorway with another insult ready. But she didn't. She never would again. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I began to rebuild. The fridge, once locked with chains, was filled with food I loved. The walls, stripped bare under her control, were painted warm colors that made the house feel alive again. I dragged her soulless furniture to the curb and replaced it with things that felt real, comfortable, mine. On the wall of the living room, I hung a photo of my dad, his arm around me, both of us smiling like the world was ours. For years, that picture had been hidden in a drawer because she couldn't stand it. Now it was the heart of the house. At night, I would sit in the backyard with a mug of tea, staring at the stars. The air was cool, crickets humming in the grass. For the first time in so long, I let myself think about the future. Not just surviving the next day, a real future. College, travel, friendships, maybe even a family of my own someday. My chest would ache with both longing and hope, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't broken anymore. I whispered to the night, to the stars, to him. "I'll make you proud, Dad." The wind rustled the trees, and for a moment I swore I felt his presence, warm, steady, watching over me. Months later, her story hit the news. Headlines read, "Woman convicted of defrauding stepdaughter after husband's death." People whispered about it at the grocery store, at school, at the gas station. Strangers looked at me with pity, some with admiration. But I didn't need their pity, and I didn't crave their praise. Because when I looked in the mirror now, I didn't see a broken girl with swollen eyes and hunched shoulders. I saw a young woman standing tall with fire in her eyes, I saw someone who had walked through hell and come out the other side stronger. I didn't just survive Linda. I defeated her. The day she was transferred to state prison, I stood at the end of the driveway, watching the van drive past. A reporter's voice carried through the open window. Convicted fraudster and abuser Linda Carter begins her 10-year sentence today. My lips curved into a small smile. Not joy, not revenge. Just closure. Justice had been served. That night, I walked barefoot through the house, the floor cool under my feet. I paused in the hallway where my father's study used to be, now bright and clean. My voice came out in a whisper, soft but certain. We're free now. And for the first time since the night he died, I slept without nightmares. The girl who once hid in her room, trembling at every sound, was gone. The girl who sat on the floor bouncing a rubber ball just to escape the silence was gone. In her place stood Emily, strong, unbroken, ready to face the world. The darkness at the door had tried to swallow me whole. But I had stared into it, fought it, and walked through. And now, the only thing waiting on the other side was light. She didn't just control the house. She controlled me. She monitored every move I made, every bite of food I ate, every word I spoke. If I laughed, she snapped at me. If I cried, she mocked me. I started to feel like even breathing in that house was a crime. One evening, I was scrubbing the kitchen floor on my knees. My hair was damp with sweat sticking to my face. My arms burned from hours of work. Linda stood above me, sipping wine from a crystal glass. Her red lipstick left marks on the rim as she smirked. "You missed a spot," she said casually, pointing with her toe. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. My jaw locked, teeth grinding. I wanted to throw the bucket of water at her. Instead, I lowered my head and scrubbed harder. She laughed, a cold, sharp laugh that echoed off the walls. Nights were the same. She'd throw parties with her friends, drinking and laughing while I hid upstairs, hungry and exhausted. Sometimes I'd hear her bragging about how she had taken care of her late husband's estate, how everything belonged to her now. My chest would tighten, rage boiling under my skin. But I stayed quiet. What could I do? I was 17, trapped in her world. The worst was when she started locking the fridge. She put a chain and padlock around it, jingling the keys in front of me with a smirk. "You think food is free?" she sneered. "If you want to eat, earn it." My stomach growled so loud it embarrassed me. I would sneak into the pantry at night, stuffing crackers into my mouth, my hands shaking. She caught me once, dragging me out by the arm. Her nails dug into my skin, leaving red marks. Her face twisted with disgust. Just like a rat, she spat. My eyes burned with tears, but I forced myself not to cry in front of her. But no matter how much she tried to crush me, there was always that voice in the back of my head. My dad's voice. "You're tougher than you think." Some nights, lying awake in the dark, I'd whisper those words to myself over and over, clutching my pillow like it was him one night. After another screaming match where she called me a waste of space, I sat in the corner of my room, knees pulled to my chest. My hair was messy, my face streaked with tears. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, a pale girl with swollen eyes and trembling lips. For a moment, I didn't even recognize myself, and that scared me more than Linda ever could. That was the night I made a promise to myself. I won't let her win. I won't let her destroy me. At first, it was just small acts of rebellion. I started keeping a notebook hidden under a loose floorboard. I wrote everything down, every cruel word she said, every threat, every insult. I drew sketches of her face when she was screaming, her eyes wild, her lips twisted. I noted dates, times, details. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but it felt like power. Like proof. Then I found Dad's old laptop, shoved in the back of a closet. Linda had forgotten about it. My hands shook as I opened it, the screen flickering to life. His photos were still there. Him and me at the park, birthdays, Christmas mornings. I pressed my fingers against the screen, tears sliding down my cheeks. But I also found files, documents about his insurance, bank statements, things that didn't match the stories Linda told me. My chest tightened. She had lied. She had stolen. That's when the plan began to take shape. I straightened my posture. I stopped avoiding mirrors. I forced myself to look at my reflection every day, even when I hated what I saw. My eyes began to harden, a fire growing inside them. When Linda barked at me, I still obeyed, but inside I whispered, "Not for long." I started gathering evidence, quietly, carefully. I recorded her rants on my phone, slipping it into my pocket whenever she started yelling. I saved copies of documents, transferring them to a hidden USB drive. Each piece felt like a weapon I was sharpening in secret. At school, teachers started to notice I was different. My shoulders weren't hunched anymore. I looked people in the eye. A counselor pulled me aside once, asking if I was okay. I almost broke down right there, but I held it in. Not yet. I couldn't blow my cover. Linda didn't notice the change at first. She was too busy spending money that wasn't hers, throwing parties, bragging to her friends. But I noticed. I felt stronger every day. My voice grew steadier, my hands stopped shaking. One afternoon, I stood in the backyard, raking leaves. Linda yelled at me from the porch, something about being too slow. For once, I didn't flinch. I looked up at her, my jaw tight, my eyes hard. For the first time, she looked unsettled. Her smile faltered. She turned away quickly, muttering to herself. That night, lying in bed, I smiled in the dark. She had seen it. She had seen that I wasn't afraid anymore. I started working with the counselor at school, secretly. She connected me with a lawyer who helped me understand my rights. I showed him the documents, the recordings, the notebook. His eyes widened. "Emily," he said softly, "you've built a strong case." My heart pounded with both fear and hope. The day came when I knew it was time. I called the police. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. I told them everything. When they showed up at the house, Linda's face turned pale for the first time since I'd known her. She screamed, cursed, threatened. But it didn't matter. They had the evidence. They had her lies in black and white, in her own voice. As they dragged her out in handcuffs, she twisted to look at me, her eyes burning with hate. "You'll regret this," she shrieked. My fists clenched, my jaw locked. But I didn't flinch. I didn't shrink. I just stared back at her, my eyes steady, my chin lifted. For the first time, I felt taller than her, stronger. The neighbors watched from their lawns, whispering. Some looked shocked, others almost relieved. I stood there, tears rolling down my cheeks, but my expression firm. This wasn't just her downfall. It was my rise, and it was only the beginning. I sat on the edge of the porch steps, my hands trembling in my lap. The cool night air pressed against my skin, but I barely felt it. My eyes were locked on the flashing red and blue lights bouncing off the walls of our house. Police officers moved in and out, their radios crackling. Neighbors stood at the edge of their lawns, whispering, pointing, staring. My chest felt heavy, like a stone sat inside it. My jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. I could still hear her voice in my head, sharp, cruel, full of venom. "Useless, worthless, just like your mother." Her words cut deeper than knives. Tears rolled down my cheeks, hot against my cold skin. I wiped them with the back of my sleeve, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out everything else. And then I saw her, handcuffed. My stepmother's eyes darted around, wild and furious. Her lips curled as she hissed at the officers holding her arms. She thrashed, spitting curses into the night. I stood up slowly, my body stiff, fists tightening at my sides. For years, she had broken me. For years, she had made me feel small. But tonight, she wasn't the one in control. I lifted my chin, tears still wet on my face, but my eyes burning with fire. This wasn't just her arrest. It was my victory. But to understand this night, this fire inside me, you have to know where it all began. Before the shouting, before the bruises, before the broken pieces of me, there was a life that was warm, simple, and full of love. I grew up in a small suburban neighborhood in Ohio. It wasn't rich or glamorous, but it was home. My dad was the kind of man everyone in the neighborhood respected. Strong hands, kind eyes, and a laugh that filled the room. He worked hard as a mechanic, but he always came home with enough energy to toss a ball with me in the yard, or help me with my homework at the kitchen table. I remember the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled at me. The way he'd pat my shoulder and say, "Emily, you're tougher than you think." My mom had passed away when I was little, and it had always been just me and Dad. He did his best to play both roles, the soft, gentle one who comforted me at night, and the firm one who taught me how to stand up straight and face the world. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And that was enough. Then Linda came. I was 13 when Dad introduced her to me. "Emily," he said nervously, his hands fidgeting, "this is Linda. She's special." I wanted to like her. I wanted to see my dad happy again. She was tall, with perfectly styled blonde hair and nails painted bright red. She smelled like perfume, strong and sharp. Her smile looked pretty at first, but her eyes didn't match. They were cold, calculating. Still, I forced a smile and shook her hand. Her grip was too tight, like she wanted me to know she was in charge. At first, she pretended to be kind. She'd bring me little gifts, a new notebook, a pair of earrings I didn't ask for. She'd pat my hair and say things like, "We'll be a family now." Dad seemed happier, lighter. So I bit my tongue and tried to accept her. But deep down, something about her always felt wrong. When they got married, everything shifted. Slowly, subtly at first. Linda would make little comments at dinner. "Emily, don't slouch. You look lazy." Or, "Emily, your hair's a mess. No wonder you don't have friends." Dad would frown but say nothing. He wanted peace. And I wanted to believe things would get better. They didn't. The real change came after Dad died. It was sudden, a heart attack that took him in the middle of the night. One moment he was laughing with me over pizza, the next he was gone. I remember standing in the hospital hallway, the walls closing in, my throat dry, my hands numb. Linda stood beside me, her face dry, untouched. Not a single tear. When the doctor spoke to us, her hand rested on my shoulder, but her grip was hard, almost painful. At the funeral, I cried so hard my chest hurt. My face was swollen, my hair a mess. I clutched the folded flag they gave me, my fingers shaking. Linda stood tall and composed, accepting people's condolences with fake smiles. She looked more like a host at a party than a grieving widow. That night, when we got home, I sat on my bed, staring at the floor. The house was so quiet without him. Linda walked into my room, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She looked at me, her eyes cold. "Listen," she said, her voice low and sharp. "Things are different now. Your father is gone. I'm in charge. Don't expect me to coddle you." My stomach twisted. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I couldn't move. My throat felt sealed shut. She leaned closer, her perfume choking me. "If you think you're going to live here for free eating my food, you're wrong. You'll do as I say, or you'll regret it." And that was the beginning of my downfall. She wasted no time tearing me apart. My room, once filled with Dad's laughter, became a prison. Linda stripped the walls of my posters, boxed up my things, and said, "You don't need junk cluttering the house." She took the photo of Dad and me off my nightstand. I begged her to leave it. She smirked and tossed it into a drawer. "You'll thank me. You need to stop living in the past." Every day became a battle. She'd assign me endless chores, scrubbing floors, cleaning toilets, mowing the lawn until my arms ached. If I made a mistake, a missed spot, a crooked fold, she'd sneer. "Pathetic. Even your dead mother could have done better." Her words hit me like punches. My fists tightened, my jaw locked, but I swallowed it all. Because what could I do? I was a child. She was the adult. Nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed, tears sliding down my cheeks, biting my lips so hard it bled just to keep quiet. I wanted Dad. I wanted his arms around me, his voice telling me I was tougher than I thought. But he was gone, and Linda was all I had left, or so I believed. The betrayal went deeper. I found out she had taken control of everything Dad left behind. The life insurance, the savings, even the house. Papers I'd never seen were suddenly shoved under my nose. "Sign this," she ordered. My hands shook as I scribbled my name. She smirked, satisfied. Later, I realized I had signed away rights I didn't even understand. I started to shrink inside myself. My back hunched, my eyes avoided mirrors, my voice barely a whisper. At school, I kept my head down. Friends drifted away, tired of my excuses. I was trapped in silence, a ghost in my own life. But something inside me refused to die.